Good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait for a couple of minutes whilst everybody enters in to the online meeting room. As you're joining, please could you mute your speakers when you come in? That would be great. Brilliant. Hello again, everyone. Just we've got a very large number of people joining the meeting, so please, as you do join the meeting, if you could just pop yourselves on mute, that would be great to avoid any background interference. Brilliant. Hello again, everyone. Just while we let the final few people into the meeting, please do pop yourselves on mute, and we'll be underway very shortly indeed. Okay, great. That looks like the steady flow of incomers has ceased for now, and we will get underway with the proceedings. Good morning, everyone. My name's Ollie Cox. I'm head of academic partnerships at the V&A, and also part of the cohort coordination team that sits at the V&A, which is managing the expression of interest phase of this fellowship program. Our aim in the Town Hall today is to give you as much information as possible about the scheme to enable you to hear from 5 of our independent research organisation hosts to hear a bit more about their areas of research priority, and to also hear from the AHRC directly about the call and the various elements contained within it. The objective for today is to really ensure that you have as much information as possible to enable you to feel empowered and confident to approach independent research organisation hosts and to ask any questions you might have about the scheme. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen now, and we will get underway with the day's proceedings. Perfect. So yes, well, hello. So you are going to be hearing from a few key people today over the course of the session. So we're very pleased indeed that Dr. Sue Carver, Head of Skills from the AHRC, has joined us to talk about the AHRC's work. I'll be speaking briefly about the work of the cohort training and development team. And our current fellow is not Sophie Nikolov, but is actually Dr. Jennifer Morris from the British Museum. So Jenny, we are delighted you are here to tell us about the experience that you've had over the past couple of years of the fellowship. We are joined by a stellar cast of representatives from independent research organisations. From English Heritage, we'll be joined by Andrew Hann, Senior Curator of History with Research Oversight, Megan Leyland, who's Senior Curator of History Partnerships. From the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew, Mark Nisbett, Senior Research Leader. From the British Library, Andrew Rackley, Interim Head of Research Development. From the British Museum, JD Hill, Head of Research. And finally, from the National Archives, Jack Butterworth, who's Head of Research, Grants and Academic Engagement. The structure of the session today is as follows. And if you're joining us, please do pop yourselves on mute to avoid any interference. Our town hall session is going to last for approximately an hour and a half. Actually, no, it's not going to last for approximately an hour and a half. It will last for an hour and a half. We will finish by 12 o'clock, but we will have a short break at about 11:25, so you can stretch your legs, grab a cup of tea or coffee, and come back to hear our final speakers. So the lineup is as follows. We will first and very shortly hear from Sue Carver, Head of Skills from the AHRC, about the opportunity. Then you'll hear from myself about the work of the cohort coordination and development team. After that, we'll have our first three presentations. We will not have a Q&A at that point, but we will go straight into a comfort break before returning for our final two presentations from IRO representatives. But I think not more importantly, of equal levels of significance, we will hear from Jenny Morris, one of our current fellows, about the scheme. And then we will ensure that there is time for Q&A throughout at the end. But what I would also encourage all attendees to do is please make ample use of the chat facility. There are enough of us on the call who are working behind the scenes to make this fellowship program happen that we should be able to answer any questions that you have via the chat. If your question is of a deeply personal or confidential nature, please do feel free to email us directly and we can take that offline and ensure that you get a resolution in a timely manner. So that's enough from me. Just some final bits of housekeeping. As mentioned before, please do pop yourselves on mute, but also do make use of the chat so that we can ensure that there are, because I think if your question is probably there will be others thinking that same thought, I'm sure. So the chat is a very useful way of ensuring that we're able to answer questions in a timely fashion. So without further ado, I'm going to finish sharing my screen now. But before I do, I just wanted to point out the other person currently on the screen, Eloise Rowley, who is our brilliant project coordinator at the V&A. And Eloise has masterminded all of these town hall sessions and has been liaising very, very closely indeed with the AHRC to ensure that we are communicating this opportunity to as wide a range of people as possible. So just from the outset, thanks, Eloise. You've been absolutely brilliant as usual. I'm going to pass over now to Sue Carver from the AHRC. Sue, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ollie. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Just bear with me a moment. Okay. Is that sharing?
Yep, all looks good.
It is. Okay. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. My name is Sue Carver and I'm Head of Skills at AHRC. And I'm delighted there's so much interest in this new opportunity which we have launched. Has that moved on to the next slide?
No.
There we go. Sorry. So we're really excited to launch the second round of our Early Career Fellowship Scheme in Cultural and Heritage Institutions. This scheme is designed to support early career researchers working within the UK's vibrant cultural and heritage sectors. And it builds on the success of the pilot scheme, which we have run and is coming towards its end. So the scheme offers individual fellowships hosted by independent research organisations or IROs, and it enables talented researchers to deepen their expertise and contribute to the sector's knowledge base. We also, alongside, offer a cohort-based research programme. This is a programme of networking events, career development activities that foster collaboration and peer support and long-term professional growth. So our aim through this opportunity is to strengthen research capacity within IROs, to support career progression for early career researchers, to foster a vibrant, connected community of cultural heritage research professionals. So the scheme very much reflects our commitment to nurturing talent promoting innovation and ensuring long-term sustainability of research in the cultural and heritage sectors. So the scheme is first and foremost a people-focused scheme. At its heart, the fellowship is about nurturing early career postdoctoral researchers, giving them the space, the support, and the opportunity to develop professionally within the UK's rich cultural and heritage landscape. So the key objectives with these fellowships are twofold: to create meaningful opportunities for early career postdoctoral researchers, to build, deepen, or broaden their experience of working in the major cultural and heritage organisations, but also to develop their skills and future research careers in ways that align with the work, collections, and practices of their host organisations. So through this, we're aiming not just to support individual career progressions, but also the wider research capacity and sustainability of the sector. So the objectives of the scheme for the hosts themselves, we hope that the fellowships will deliver high quality and impactful research while enhancing the host's capacity in areas which are closely aligned with their research strategy and will lead to practical benefits and outcomes. So the sun is shining in Swindon. I'm really clear that I've got a dotted line down my forehead, but I can't really get rid of it. So hopefully it's not too distracting. The sun doesn't shine very often in Swindon. We should make the most of it. So in terms of the objectives of the scheme, so we hope that the fellowships will bring meaningful benefits to the wider cultural and heritage sector. Firstly, by addressing a well-recognised need for more dedicated support at the early stages of research careers, something that AHRC is committed to supporting. But secondly, by promoting equality, diversity and inclusion principles and helping to build and diversify the sector's research capabilities. So finally, we're also looking to support broader societal engagement, strengthening the culture and heritage sector's contribution to culture, society and the economy. So moving on to the more practical side of things. So in order to be eligible for one of these fellowships, you need to be based in the UK or eligible to work here, for example, through a visa. You need to show a clear commitment to working with the cultural and heritage sector, and this is going to be really important when the hosts consider supporting your application. So you'll need to demonstrate your commitment to the sector. You either need to be already employed or have confirmed offer of employment from the host for the duration of the fellowship. And this is particularly relevant when we come to the full application stage. You'll need to be of postdoctoral standing, and I'll explain what that means on a later slide. And finally, each applicant must address one of the predefined research areas from one of the host IROs. So that information is available on our funding finder. You'll only be able to submit one expression of interest as specified in the funding opportunity. So you can engage with more than one host, but you will need to commit to just one expression of interest. So fellowships can use methodologies, theories, approaches and tools from any discipline or a combination of disciplines. So we particularly encourage interdisciplinary projects, but the scope of the project and the overall approach have to be within AHRC's remit. Details of AHRC's remit can be found within our research funding guide. But if you or the host that you wish to work with has any doubts about whether your application will fit AHRC's remit, there is a pre-application query form which you can submit to us. So you can raise query with us in advance of submitting a proposal. So I mentioned that I would talk about postdoctoral criteria. So to be a postdoctoral standing, you either need to be able to identify as an early career researcher in the arts and humanities, so based on your funding history. So you can basically self-identify as an early career researcher, and more information is available on the funding finder. So importantly, this is defined not as years post-PhD or your job title, but is based on funding history. Alternatively, you may qualify if you have less than 6 years postdoctoral research experience, or if you have less than 6 years in roles in which research is a significant component of that role. Just a quick note, if you are completing your PhD, if you've passed your viva before the expression of interest deadline, or if you only need to make minor corrections, then you're eligible to apply. However, if the corrections are substantial or it requires reassessment, then I'm afraid you're not going to meet the eligibility criteria. Also worth noting, when we're thinking about timelines, career breaks, for example, due to family care, health reasons, or the pandemic, can be excluded from the calculations. So in terms of the host eligibility requirements, they need to be an independent research organisation that is eligible to receive UKRI and AHRC funding. And they need to conduct research within AHRC's remit, that is suitable for arts and humanities research. So all of the hosts that are engaging with this funding opportunity have actually provided information on the research areas, their priority areas, and all of that information is on Funding Finder. So you will only be able to apply to the hosts that are listed on Funding Finder. In addition, each host must provide a supportive research environment for the fellow. And by that, we're talking about the areas around line management, a strong commitment to equality, diversity and inclusion, access to mentoring, relevant training, collections and facilities, and an overall supportive environment for the fellow's career and development. So the host must commit to employing the fellow for the full duration of the award. And we also strongly encourage hosts and the fellows themselves actually to look at the principles of the Concordat support the career development of researchers. So this sort of sets the framework for the support of fellows throughout their journey. So we also very much encourage partnerships and collaborations that will enhance the fellows' experience through either skills or training or research collaboration. So there are options within this opportunity for host organisations to co-host a fellow, provided that one host takes a lead on employment and managing the fellowship. So this allows for flexible arrangements that can benefit the fellow and the institutions involved. So applications involving multiple host organisation are welcome, but one host must lead on the employment of the fellow and on managing the award. The application must clearly specify the activities which will be taken at each host organisation, and it should explain how the arrangement would benefit both the host and the fellow's career development. And all hosts must be listed in the application. In addition, they could choose, the fellow and the host organisation could choose to partner with other UK cultural and heritage organisations, i.e. ones that are not IROs, or universities or international organisations. So these do not have to have IRO status, but I should also flag that partnerships are optional. So you're not required to have a partnership, but it is an option and a flexibility that is included within the opportunity. And that collaboration could also take a number of different forms. So, for example, a non-IRO might wish to offer a placement opportunity, which would enable the fellow to spend part of their fellowship working with that organisation on a particular piece of work. So at the full application stage, if there is a partner, then a letter of support will need to be submitted, which will outline the purpose, commitment and added value of the collaboration. So training and development is a really crucial part of this fellowship opportunity, and V&A colleagues will talk about this in more detail. But this particular fellowship opportunity includes a dedicated training and development programme, which is designed specifically for the cohort of fellows participating within the scheme. So it builds on a successful model delivered during the the pilot phase cohort coordination and development team at the VNA. So the programme will include sector-specific skills training, panel discussions, networking activities, all of which are aimed to foster peer learning and cohort identity. So the training programme is designed to support career development, inclusive participation, engagement, both within and beyond the cohort. Most of the activities offered will be online, but there will be some in-person events, including a residential. And all fellows are expected to engage with the programme, so that is something you need to consider if you're thinking of applying to the scheme. It is mandatory to engage with the programme. On average, the activities should be about a half day per week. And as I said, the VNA colleagues will provide more information about the programme, but there's also information available on the website. So in terms of timings, the fellowship can be last between 1 and 2 years, but longer if it's part-time. So fellowships can be full-time, part-time, or a combination of the two. The expression of interest stage is currently open and is due to close on the 10th of December this year. And we're hoping that this will be a generous amount of time for potential fellows to discuss their ideas with potential hosts prior to submitting their expression of interest. The VNA will provide further details on requirements and timings of the expression of interest stage. A timeline for the full proposal stage will be published in due course, but we're expecting the closing date to be early 2026. We expect all fellowships to begin on the 1st of January or before the 1st of January, but we can make exceptions on EDI ground. So following on from that, so we strongly encourage applications from individuals who are underrepresented in the cultural and heritage sector. So this might include ethnic minorities and disabled people, though that is by no means an exhaustive list. Applicants may choose to disclose personal characteristics, but this is not a requirement. It's entirely optional. And further details on how equality, diversity, inclusion are being considered in the expression of interest phase can be found in the Equality Impact Assessment, which is published on the UKRI Funding Finder alongside the opportunity. So we advise potential applicants to read the Funding Finder text in detail, just to check the eligibility and so they understand what the call is about and what is being looked for in terms of criteria and assessment requirements, etc. So you have a clear understanding of the requirements of the funding opportunity. Also included on the Funding Finder are the areas of interest of the hosts who are participating in the scheme. So please read that document carefully to consider which of those areas are resonating with you and your background and the areas of research which you would like to pursue. And there are contact details for all the IROs available on that page so that you can contact individual IROs, any individual IROs or host organisations that you're interested in working with. As I mentioned earlier, you can approach multiple IROs to discuss options of projects that might be available, but ultimately you will only be able to submit one expression of interest. The expression of interest, you can see there the contact Eloise, who's on the call, is collecting the expressions of interest. So there is an email address and the closing date's the 10th of December. Hosts will then shortlist potential applicants and you may be invited to an interview if you are shortlisted. And the IRO will, for the successful applicant from the shortlisting, the IRO will then co-design the project and collaborate on the putting together a full proposal with you. So you will find all of the additional documents which have been referenced in this presentation on the Funding Finder opportunity in the additional information section. And that is me. So thank you very much for listening, and I shall hand back to Ollie.
Brilliant, Sue. Thank you so much. So we're going to do a brief run through now of the the cohort development activities. And as Sue mentioned in her presentation, these are an absolutely integral part of the fellowship, and we really do expect any successful fellows to partake fully in these activities. Of course, we have braided EDI considerations throughout our development of the fellowship opportunity. So we are very, very aware that people have caring, parental, other forms of responsibility, and sessions are devised with that very much in mind. So with that as a caveat, I'm going to just reshare my screen and we'll be underway again. So the cohort coordination development team is currently led by a team based at the V&A. There's myself as the co-investigator on the grant as head of academic partnerships, Joanna Norman, who is director of the V&A Research Institute, National Art Library and Archives, as the principal investigator, and Eloise Rowley, who I've already mentioned, as our project coordinator. So what we'd like to reassure you is that you'd be in very safe hands, because we have been working together for 3 years now on the pilot phase of this fellowship. So we also have learnt a lot through that process. We at the V&A support 3 particular work streams, the first of which is supporting the development of fellowship proposals through the expression of interest phase. So that's where we are now, hosting town halls, ensuring that there's a central point of contact for eligibility queries, and making sure that as wide a range of people as possible are aware of this opportunity. The second thing we do is we design and deliver the cohort development and training program. And thirdly, we are masters of all we survey in terms of evaluation and reporting, and have been working with a brilliant external evaluation consultant to help us do that work. To give you a bit of a sense of what to expect from the cohort training and development program, very much this is designed for the cohort of fellows. And as Sue mentioned in her presentation, we have a really specific focus on research within the cultural and heritage sector. In terms of the kind of time commitment involved, run over the duration of your fellowship, we estimate this to be approximately half a day per week, but that's an average taken across the lifespan of your fellowship. Most of the sessions will take place online, but we do, as a coordination team, very much believe in the importance of in-person work together, and we will look to host various milestone events in the duration of the fellowship in person, to just ensure that we can really build that sense of cohort across and between the fellows. Just that's been one of the really powerful things for us as the coordinating group for this initial pilot phase of the fellowship over the last 3 years, has been playing an active part in helping grow that sense of cohort across our brilliant fellows who are working at a range of different institutions, tackling a range of different innovative research projects. But there are a series of shared experiences and shared opportunities and shared challenges that we can navigate collectively, which I think is one of the really exciting aspects of this. We will factor in at least one residential, and again, as we mentioned, if there are additional childcare costs or things like that, we will work very closely with selected fellows to ensure that they are not discriminating is maybe too strong a word, but you know what I mean, and not disadvantaged in any way, shape or form from attending. In addition to those sessions, we will look to organise a mentoring relationship for you, should you so wish, and that will be someone that sits outside of your employment status, that sits outside of your host organisation, that enables you to bounce ideas off and to explore your own personal professional development journey with. And as mentioned earlier, one of the most rewarding things about the cohort so far is that real sense of peer-to-peer learning and peer-to-peer engagement. It's a rare opportunity to be literally in the same boat as as a range of different colleagues, experiencing many of the similar, as I said earlier, both challenges and opportunities of making your way as a researcher, as an active researcher embedded within the cultural and heritage sector. Just to give you a few examples of the kinds of training and development that we offer, the pilot program has included seminars focused on the cultural and heritage sector, its themes, challenges, and opportunities. So we're bringing in people that are kind of walking the walk and talking the talk at the moment. People at the front line and the bleeding edge of change within cultural and heritage organisations. We also work with external facilitators to produce and create workshops on how to perhaps navigate complex institutions or best practice for working with community groups. And finally, we are very, very keen indeed to ensure that there are a series of practical sessions around budget and project management, different research pathways, funding opportunities, and importantly, how to approach writing a CV, narrative CV or otherwise. As mentioned earlier, we have the mentoring process, but also we're very aware that over the lifespan of your project, new opportunities might emerge, for which we have found it very useful indeed to have a small responsive grant scheme within the fellowship scheme itself. So that grant is only available to fellows who are selected as part of the cohort, and these are up to, I can't remember the exact details, it's up to about £4,000-5,000, that is there to enable emerging activity or to put on something in response to a situation that might have emerged that you couldn't foresee when you first wrote your grant and your project timeline. If you want to go deep dive in preparation for a conversation with one of our IRO colleagues later over the next couple of months, you can find out a lot more on the Early Career Research Fellowships in Cultural and Heritage Institutions webpage, which is part of the V&A research pages. We've got lots of different blog posts and various other resources there that hopefully will give you a sense of the flavour of our training and development programme. And just as a reminder as to how you should develop your proposal, the Funding Finder website is your friend here, so please make sure you spend the time to read that webpage in detail and in depth. There is a lot of information in there, but it is all in one place and has all of the key variables and eligibility queries hopefully answered within it. You can find out which independent research organisations are participating. There are 23 of us. So it is worth reiterating that the lead organisation for your application can only be one of those 23 independent research organisations. Each of us have identified priority areas of interest that we are keen to work with potential fellows with. And each of us have provided a contact name for you to get in touch with should you be interested in developing a proposal with us. And running across the 23 organisations, there are some shared areas of research concern. And I think this has been one of the really exciting things in terms of the cohort relationship, is seeing how we're able to begin to push the dial on some of these key areas. So we're interested in our underexplored collections and places with those opportunities for more inclusive engagement with heritage. We're interested in contextualizing these collections and heritage in relation to contemporary themes of national and global relevance. We're interested in the ways in which creative technology might be applied and heritage science too. We have a concern with the ways in which cultural heritage can address and engage with climate change and biodiversity loss, thinking through also the sustainability and resilience of collections and heritage in the face of the climate emergency. And we're also interested in enhancing and exploring future practices in cultural heritage and creative organisations. In particular, the responsible application of digital technologies and generative AI, for example. As emphasised, each of the individual institutions has outlined their areas of priority on an Excel spreadsheet. There is a master list at the top, but if you look at the bottom, you will also see that each organisation has a tab that outlines their 4 areas of particular interest. Each organisation has committed to having a range of conversations with potential fellows. So please do get in touch sooner rather than later if you would like to work with one of us. And all of our names are listed here. So these are your main points of contact within the organisation. As you'll notice, many of us have kind of convening or managerial roles within the organisation, and our responsibility is to ensure that you are connected with the relevant subject specialist within our organisations to ensure that you can have that conversation to explore the extent to which your research idea fits or aligns with the host organisation's priority areas. As emphasised right at the beginning, we have until the 10th of December to submit expression of interest applications. But if any of you already work in cultural organisations, you'll know that trying to find meeting slots in people's diaries is an ongoing and endless nightmare. So give us as much time as possible. So we really encourage you to get in touch with potential hosts as soon as possible. Just a reminder that all of these town hall recordings will be available on the Funding Finder website. As mentioned, Eloise is working very, very closely indeed with our colleagues at AHRC to make sure that these resources are uploaded as soon as possible. The substantive kind of content, this content up until 11 is much the same across all of the town halls, but the difference lies in the independent research organisations that have presented at each. So running across the 4 town halls, you should have been able to hear directly from each of the participating organisations. Just as a reminder of the timeline, so now is the time to talk to us, and between the host IROs and potential candidates, we'll be discussing project fit, or perhaps identify a potential project supervisor within our organisations. And then by 4 o'clock on the 10th of December, not 5 o'clock, but 4 o'clock on the 10th of December, please do submit your expression of interest form to us at the V&A by emailing Eloise directly. That's it from me. We're going to be passing on to our next speakers in just a second. But the final thing to say is that after this town hall, you'll be receiving a voluntary EDI, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion monitoring form. I'd really encourage you, should you feel so willing, to fill in that form. Of course, all responses are anonymised, but it is very, very helpful for us as the coordination team to get a snapshot of the potential application pool at this moment in time, and to explore the ways in which that might shift, change, or remain the same at final application. So please do consider filling that in. It's a really, really valuable slice of data for us to analyse. And just to emphasise, it is all anonymous and will be used according to various V&A privacy policies, which should you be so minded to request, please feel free, and we'd be delighted to share them with you. So that's it in terms of the overall setup for the fellowship. But it's now a real pleasure to welcome our five host IROs and also our current fellow, Jenny Morris. We're going to start the presentations now with hearing from colleagues from English Heritage. I'd like to welcome Andrew and Megan to the stage. Guys, come on down.
Thank you, Ollie.
Share your screen.
Get my screen going. Can we see that? Thumbs up, fantastic. Thank you very much for having us to come and share a bit more about working with us here at English Heritage. My name is Dr. Megan Leyland. I'm a Senior Curator of History with a particular remit for partnership working, so working with academics or running our PhD studentships. Andrew, do you want to quickly introduce yourself before we get
Yes,
in?
I'm Andrew Hann, and I'm the Senior Curator of History responsible for research coordination, particularly looking at strategy.
Fantastic. So let me see if we can get the clicker working. Hooray. So first I thought I'd just introduce you to English Heritage for those of you who are perhaps not as familiar. So our sort of mission, our strapline is that we believe that heritage is for everybody, and in turn we are here for heritage. We became an independent charity in April 2015 and are responsible for caring for the National Heritage Collection, which consists of over 400 unique sites and monuments across England and over 1 million artefacts. So plenty of things to consider for research. These range from international icons like Stonehenge, you can see on the screen, to local treasures, and span thousands of years of history, from our prehistoric monuments to a Cold War bunker. And as a charity, we open these sites up to the public and share their stories in a range of ways for people to enjoy, learn, play and create. We also run the London Blue Plaque Scheme to advance public appreciation of the history of buildings and landmarks. Research is a vital part of what we do as an organisation, and it underpins the presentation, care and sharing of the National Collection, and this is guided by a team of in-house researchers specialising in areas such as conservation science, documentary and archaeological research, heritage and interpretation studies. The list goes on. So if you are interested in working with, I'm sure we can find one of those supervisors Ollie mentioned earlier for the project. And our research is led by a guiding research strategy, which closely aligns with our research priorities for this call out. These include inclusive narratives, conservation and stewardship, engagement and interpretation, and well-being and society. So Andrew and I are going to run through those 4 different areas, and I will start with inclusive narratives. So we are committed to addressing gaps in our national story, including stories of people of colour, women, children, LGBTQ+ people, people with disabilities, non-elite narratives, and global connections, as Ollie mentioned, to the National Heritage Collection. And we welcome proposals which uncover these stories, offer fresh perspectives, innovative ways of sharing them, interpreting them. And we're really keen to work with those who have personal connections to these topics or lived experience of these characteristics. So our second research priority is conservation and stewardship. We are interested in more sustainable approaches to sites and collections conservation and management as well. So this could include impacts of climate change, the use of data-driven research and AI technologies to understand conservation needs or collections management. We're interested in methods of structuring and accessing site and collection data to improve transparency, reveal connections, enable strategic management, and we welcome proposals in conservation science, including environmental responsive materials in historic environments, to help identify risk thresholds and to identify mitigation measures as well. So Andrew, I'm going to hand over to you for the next priorities.
Thank you. Well, the third of these themes is engagement and interpretation, and here we're interested in new approaches to sharing the stories of our sites and collections so that we can connect people with heritage in compelling ways. We're interested in interpretive techniques that affect how people experience heritage, both familiar and unfamiliar. And we also welcome proposals that look at different approaches to community engagement, particularly with young people, marginalised groups and those with disabilities. And then for the 4th and final theme, well-being and society, here we're interested in the therapeutic value of heritage, and we're keen to understand how our sites can contribute to physical and mental well-being, particularly for young people and children, but for other groups as well. We're also interested in notions of identity and social values and how these are embodied in the materials that we care for. And that can include national identities, regional distinctiveness, but also social status, both in the past and present. So we really look forward to hearing from potential early career fellows who'd like to work with us across a whole range of these different areas. And we welcome approaches from those with experience in and research relevant to the sector, and vitally those who are interested in a collaborative environment of working and sharing research with the public, of course. So just a little bit of a go through. I mean, obviously, for all of these different projects, the particular skills and expertise we're looking for is going to be a little bit different. So for inclusive narratives, here we're looking primarily for people with an interest in primary research sources and methodologies around contested histories, that sort of thing. Also, who are interested in collaborative and partnership working. For conservation and stewardship, here it's particular conservation science techniques, an interest in climate change or digital technology or collection management and research. For engagement and interpretation, here we're thinking about looking at innovative interpretation techniques and their evaluation. Also, again, contested heritage and collaborative partnership working. And finally, for wellbeing in society, here, someone who has experience of working in a therapeutic setting, also people with an interest in the social sciences and theories of identity and belonging, and of course working with young people for projects that's relevant to. So if you're interested in working with us, then we see this as an exciting opportunity for our organisation, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with either myself or Megan for further information.
Brilliant. Andrew, Megan, thank you very much indeed. Great to hear the areas of interest from EH. We're now going to head over to Southwest London for the Royal Botanic Gardens queue, and Mark Nisbett. Mark, up over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. And here we go. And are you seeing that?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
looks good.
Excellent. Good. So good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Nisbett. I lead the currently interdisciplinary research team at Kew, shortly to change our name to the Plant Humanities team. And the fact we have a team working this is an indicator of the importance that we give to the arts and humanities within a science organisation. And as a reminder, we have two sites, our historic gardens at Kew in Southwest London, but also not forgetting our wilder country garden down in Wakehurst, and projects could be based at one or indeed both of those sites. A little bit of context, we are the leading botanical centre in the UK, around about 8 million botanical specimens, 7 million pages of archives, 200,000 illustrations, all of which is deeply tied up with British history over the last 200 years or so, and which today form the basis of very impactful work, both for work led by a team of around about 500 scientists, enabling and empowering communities around the world, both to stop biodiversity loss and to create sustainable livelihoods, but also engaging about more or less 3 million visitors a year to our sites at all levels, from families to formal education. And two of the things we're really hoping for from our successful fellow are firstly really deep engagement with our collections, with our history, and with the different teams working at Kew on delivering impact. So we're looking for contemporary impact, and we're looking for connections and networks across those different teams. One thing we're not looking for, in fact, is expertise in plants. One of our two current fellows came with a botanical background and one didn't. That's obviously something that we can build with you if you come to Kew. You'll be joining a really large and diverse team. And I would direct you, when the recordings go live, have a look at what our two existing fellows, Marlene and Aparajita, have to say about their fellowships in the previous town halls. Coming to our key research themes, there's no surprises here, I think. They connect very directly to those broader themes outlined by Ollie. But I want to look a little bit closer at the wording, colonial legacies. So it's obviously really important to understand our history, to delve deeply into the processes and the nuances of how Kew worked and interacted with the world in the past. That word legacies is there for a reason, but we're really interested in how understanding our history enables us to better deliver our mission today, whether it's through more inclusive interpretation, whether it's by revisiting some of Kew's contemporary policies. In all of this work, we're interested in making an impact in the organization. We're not really looking for self-contained projects or ones that are purely retrospective or analytical. These terms are also deliberately broad. Plant-people relations is a deliberately broad term, but could expand from everything from indigenous plant use in the Amazon to urban forests. Health and well-being is a really growing area at Kew. We're doing a lot of work down at Wakehurst with psychologists understanding the impacts of walk in the countryside, but also how to deepen and enhance that. Again, that could be expanded, for example, into urban settings. And then we're interested in the role of cultural heritage, addressing some of the really big contemporary issues today. And we have existing projects in all four of these fields. A new area for us, and one suggested by our library and archives team, is that we do a lot of work to support heritage scientists and other organizations. We're not doing a lot of work in that sphere ourselves, and we'd be really interested in hearing from those who are working in that sector, particularly on topics relating to sustainability and resilience of collections. As you think about working in Kew, do take a look at what we're already doing. Do explore our collections, and it's important to say most of our collections date from 1840 onwards. If you're interested in earlier periods, do contact us. We might put you in touch with our friends at the Natural History Museum in Edinburgh who have the older material. And it might well be that a co-hosting project would be the way to address getting the time depth that you want for your project. Do have a look at our strategies for history, equity and inclusion. Our manifesto for change gives some pretty clear hints about the directions that we're going in, and do contact us in good time, as everybody has emphasized, so we can start this conversation at the earliest possible point. And do include in that initial email just a paragraph, a little bit of detail about your project and a little bit of detail about your background. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, Mark. Thank you so much. Now, standing between you and your coffee, a good place to be, I think. Thrilled to hand over to Andrew Rackley from the British Library. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Oliver. Let's get ourselves sorted. Right, let's try and make this quick so we can all go away and have our break. Good morning, everybody. Very nice to see so many people here today and so much interest in the scheme. My name is Andy Rackley. I am currently interim head of research development at the British Library. And as with most of my colleagues' presentations this morning, I'm going to provide a little bit of background to the library, a little bit more context, before giving a quick summary of the 4 themes that we have for this opportunity. So the British Library is the National Library of the United Kingdom. We have 2 sites at present, one at St Pancras in London and the other at Boston Spa in Yorkshire. But it is quite an exciting time for the organisation, as we also have a growing programme of activity and plans for a new site in Leeds city centre, as well as a capital programme to transform our St Pancras site with a new building. Our organisational vision, Knowledge Matters, outlines 6 core purposes for the library, as well as our mission statement to make intellectual heritage accessible to everybody. Both Knowledge Matters and a separate research strategy are both accessible on our website. These include additional context to both the organisational priorities, which may be of benefit when considering our research themes. Speaking of which, we've 4 particular themes that I've outlined here, and I'll say a little bit more about each of these now. So our first theme is climate sustainability and nature loss, which is aimed towards meeting sustainability goals and showcasing the rich potential of our collections. So different topics and approaches to this could include the development of environmentalism, which could include, for instance, eco-criticism, representations of climate crisis, climate activism, and changing attitudes to the national world. Another angle could consider how archive and library collections can be used to examine changing landscapes, waterways, climates, and ecologies. For instance, we've recently supported a project on smog stories, which used the collections to explore lived histories of air pollution in Britain. The theme could also include climate justice, colonial and imperial environments, as well as green libraries. So, for example, developing environmentally sustainable practices, including risks from a changing climate and community engagement. So our second theme is collection histories and provenance, with a particular focus within the field of documentary heritage, especially print ephemera and literary manuscripts. This includes the development of curatorial practice, specifically in documentary heritage, including public history and its interpretations, and the theory and practice of provenance, policy and action. Alternatively, it could address computational techniques, for instance, extracting and analysing collection history and provenance data from digitised images, metadata and other sources. It also includes approaches to production and content of the India Office records, as well as prosperographical research and object biography histories of production and circulation. So, for instance, research that maps literary networks through authors' correspondence. Third theme addresses misinformation, disinformation, and literacy landscape. So falsified and distorted information is spreading increasingly fast, sharpening divisions of opinion and weakening cultural bonds. Proposals to this theme could include innovative approaches to mis- and disinformation, digital literacy, storytelling, and new media narratives. It could address the role of libraries as an algorithmic social media and artificial intelligence-driven world. It could ask how to access and evaluate trustworthy information in the modern media landscape, as well as considering how historic disruption of global information systems has perpetuated the spread of so-called fake news. And our final theme concerns South Asian early print. This includes approaches to provenance, conservation, community engagement, collaboration, and knowledge exchange. So, for example, co-design and curation of community engagement with diaspora community audiences connected to priority languages. So, specifically, Northern and Southern Indian languages, which are represented within the collections. It could also include best practice for dialogue and mutual skills exchange partnerships in India, contributing to preservation, conservation, digitisation and custodianship of cultural and intellectual heritage, as well as 16th to 18th century South Indian print collections and printing presses active in the first half of the 19th century. So that was very much a whistle-stop tour of those four themes. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate there is quite a lot in there. So if you do have any questions or would like further in-depth discussion on any of these, please contact either myself, Copying Research Development, using the email addresses you can see on the screen, or Research Development directly, and somebody will be in touch. Thank you very much. I will hand back to Ollie.
Andy, thanks so much. So everyone, we had that 5-minute break now, so we will be back at 11:33. Very precise, but we wait for no person in this town hall. So please do feel free to step away from your computers for a second, and we'll be back again at 11:33, where we'll be hearing from Dr. Jenny Morris. Thanks again. Welcome back, everyone. Gosh, 5 minutes just flies by, doesn't it? So we're very pleased indeed to kick off this final block of content for today's town hall session. We're welcoming Dr. Jenny Morris, who is currently working on a project with the British Museum. Jenny, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect.
Just sharing my screen. Oops. Can you see the slides?
I think they're just coming up. Yep, there we go. We can see them.
Excellent. Thanks, Ollie. So good morning, everyone. My name's Jenny. I am, as Ollie mentioned, one of the fellows. I've been working with the British Museum since January last year. So I'm a full-time fellow. So coming into the last few months of the fellowship, terrifyingly. So this has been kind of a nice opportunity to reflect on the experience to make this presentation. I've got a lot of photographs. So my background, just to give you an idea of how I ended up here, I'm a historian mainly by training. I've been up on Southeast Asian history, and one of my case studies for that was a museum in Malaysian Borneo, the Sarawak Museum. I had an opportunity to work with them on a research project while I was there as well. But once that project finished, the PhD was submitted, my visa ran out, so moved back to the UK and tried to figure out what's the next step. I think, like many of us, I was very keen to pursue museums and heritage career-wise, but wasn't really sure how to make that jump from academia into the museum field in the UK, having a lot of research experience, not so much museum practice experience. So this fellowship was kind of the perfect opportunity when it came along. I was already in contact with the curator for Southeast Asia at the BM, Alex Green. I knew that there was an interest in research being done on the Borneo collections there. They're quite a significant part of the Southeast Asia collection at the BM, but hadn't received much research attention in the past. So was able to work on a proposal for the Interpreting Borneo in Britain project with the support of the research team at the BM, which is partly been a kind of collections history, data-driven historical analysis of all the collections acquired through one collector in the BM and other UK museums. But also has been about community engagement, opening conversations with as many stakeholders as possible about the contemporary significance of these collections, about access, and about how we could reinterpret these object stories that have previously been told mainly in colonial voices. So I'm not going to lie, it was a steep learning curve going from postgrad students to working at and representing one of the biggest museums in the world. But it's been an incredibly exciting and beneficial experience, sort of getting to know how such a large institution functions, the processes, and also getting kind of full-on day-to-day experience of curatorial work. Being able to be immersed in the collections on a daily basis has been so beneficial for the research itself, but also for my professional development, getting to know the collections in such detail as well, and also being able to facilitate access for researchers, for diaspora groups in London, to work on documentation, really getting into the collections management system and digitizing, improving the digital records that are accessible online has been amazing. Also sharing, raising awareness about the Borneo collections, which are sort of less known part of the collection, both within the museum and externally. So I included the picture on the bottom left, one of my many favourite moments of the fellowship, when I was given the chance to showcase some objects from Sarawak at a British Museum event, which turned out to be taking place in the Parthenon Marbles Gallery. So this quite surreal photograph came out of that. Also, the fellowship funding has given me amazing opportunities to travel to Malaysian Borneo to work again, really in depth on community engagement. This is not an area that I had practical experience in before, so it's been great to kind of have the opportunity to take the lead on that kind of project with the support of the BM and also the training and development program through the fellowship to really get the most out of that. And I think that's really put me in a good position for future work as well. I've also been able to collaborate with heritage professionals and documentary filmmakers in Borneo as well. And I think being in the position of being within the British Museum rather than an external researcher or collaborator has really helped to consolidate the international and the local professional networks that have come out of this project, which I hope are going to sort of future-proof the findings of the research in a kind of way that, again, might not have been possible as an external researcher. And one of the main kind of networks that we've been able to strengthen has been, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the Sarawak Museum Department as a direct result of the project last year, which has already had an impact on facilitating research on both sides. And finally, one of the kind of more unexpected but best sort of outcomes and opportunities from the project has been the chance to work with the fellowship cohort. Ollie's already mentioned this, the training and development program that's given us the opportunity to work with the team at the V&A as well, and all of the fellows, such an amazing, inspiring group of researchers. I think one of us is missing from the photo that I've stolen from Eloise, but we're all working on very different research interests, very different institutions from very different backgrounds, but there has been so much that we've learned from each other, and yeah, working through the training and development together, having the opportunity to bounce ideas off each other, get other researchers' perspectives on our projects, getting to learn about each other's projects has just been such a fantastic opportunity, and I think it's definitely created networks that are going to endure in future projects. There's already been a few sort of tangent spin-off projects that have come out of this this network. I've been working a bit with Sophie at the Natural History Museum. I know there are ideas for future collaborations as well amongst us. So yeah, I think that's definitely one of the really huge benefits that has come out of this whole program. So overall, I would definitely encourage any of you to apply for this opportunity, and I'm very happy to answer questions about my experience. And if you want more information on Borneo in Britain, the link to the British Museum page is at the bottom there.
Jenny, that was awesome. Thank you so much for giving us such a brilliant insight into your last 18 to 20 months or so, and it has been such a pleasure working with you. We're keeping the British Museum theme by handing over to JD Hill, Head of Research. JD, over to you.
Hello everyone. I'm not going to show you a PowerPoint slide because when I try and do that on these talks it always goes wrong. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about research at the British Museum and some of the things we're going to be looking for this really exciting call. Most people have an image of what the British Museum is, a very large building in London. We are the most visited visitor attraction in the UK and the third most visited visitor attraction in Europe. But behind that image, there's often a lot of misunderstanding or little knowledge about what we actually are and what we do. We are a world museum, so we have collections, as you've heard, from all over the world, including Borneo. We have collections which overlap with lots of other organisations represented here, including the Victoria and Albert Museum. And we have sort of specialisms which are not found anywhere else, such as one of the largest collections of banknotes and credit cards in the world. So we're a very large organisation. We employ more than 1,000 staff. We're also a research organisation. We have about 100 curators and research scientists at the moment who do research as part of their jobs, plus many other colleagues. And we have a very large research programme covering all areas of what we do. So the core of what we do is research on our collections, its histories and the histories they can explore so that they can inform future displays, galleries, exhibitions, and to help other people better use those collections for whatever they want to do. But we also do research in areas like collections care, display, museology. And we have a very large and important scientific research department, which I'll come back to. We have a very strong track record of supporting early career researchers through our PhD programme, through supporting programmes like this and other ways of employing early career researchers. and making sure and helping them get jobs. So, so one of my jobs as head of research at the British Museum is to make sure that Jennifer gets a job at the end of her fellowship. What we're looking at in terms of what we're focusing on for this call is quite different perhaps from some of the organisations, and that reflects the fact that the British Museum is at possibly the most exciting time in the last 250 years of our history. We're embarking on a massive programme to rebuild the museum. In 8 to 10 years' time, we hope to open new galleries covering at least a third of our existing gallery space, which will cover all of our ancient world collections plus other collections. And that's just the start of a process to rebuild and redisplay our collections over the next 10, 20 years. So we're in a really exciting moment about thinking about what should be the future of the museum, what we should display, what storage we display, how we involve other people in helping us inform those displays. So what we're looking at the moment is a period of really not just research on our gallery materials, but helping us to rethink and reimagine what those collections can be, and working very, very differently than we have ever done before with people in the UK and around the world. And that explains the focus we put for our call this time round. Because we could have so many different people expressing an interest, we've decided to focus, and we've identified 2 key areas we're looking for help proposals in. One is to help us rethink and reimagine our ancient world collections, our core collections from the ancient Middle East, the ancient Egypt and Sudan, the ancient Mediterranean, so Greece and Rome, and give us new perspectives and new ways to think about those, which will directly feed into those new displays when they come into online in 8 years' time. And the second area is going back to science. We have a really strong commitment to developing heritage science and a very strong track record of supporting early career researchers build their careers into museums and heritage organisations. So we're also looking for proposals in key areas where we have real strengths in our scientific research, and those are around areas such as imaging of different kinds, mass spec, molecular and inorganic analysis. And for those of you who work in this area, you'll know what those terms actually are. So we're open to anyone to express any interests in those areas. We have a really strong commitment to not just thinking about this in terms of whom we might help to put forward for this scheme, but identifying people who might come and work with us in the future. So, for example, when Jennifer got hers, we supported another application from someone called Julie Chan. She didn't get the AHRC fellowship, but we've now worked with her to find other funding, and she will now be starting with us on a fellowship funded by a different scheme. So we really want to find great people who want to come and work with us. And if you don't get through to this scheme, if you're the right people and you really want to work as well, we want to help you to find the ways to come and work with us. That's enough, Ali.
JD, brilliant. Thank you very, very much indeed. And now, last but by absolutely no means least, over to you, to Jack from the National Archives. Jack, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Yes, last but not least, it is the National Archives. My name is Jack. I am the head of the research and grants teams here at TNA, and here is 5 minutes on us, I suppose. So you're probably getting quite used to the sort of taxonomy of an IRO, but I think we're a particularly cool one. We are actually a non-ministerial central government department with sort of quasi-regulatory responsibilities across government for information and copyright and the public record. We are a sector development body. So if you think of what the Arts Council does for museums and libraries and galleries, think of us for archives. We have exactly the same responsibilities for about 2,500 archives across the UK. We are, of course, a cultural institution. We have an exhibitions programme and an education programme. Please do come and visit us in Kew. We have a wonderful exhibition on at the moment with a load of MI5 records that have never been seen before in public. It's really cool. We are an international archive. We do all sorts of things with other national archives and all sorts of archives across the globe to lead and shape archival practice. I've been in West Africa and in the Middle East this year doing some of that. We're our commercial business. We work with Ancestry, we work with publishers, we work with Find My Password, with all sorts of commercial organisations, and finally, and obviously most importantly, we are an IRO. So there's all sorts of stuff going on here, which fellows can be part of. And there's about 600 people at TNA, but 25 of them work in our wonderful research, grants and academic engagement department, which I have the massive privilege of leading. So what do we do in our teams? Well, first of all, we do what we hope is world-leading research in sort of 3 disciplines or broad areas. We have a collections and archives theme, which covers all of our archival practice, our historical studies, lots and lots of stuff that goes to the Arts and Humanities Research Council comes out of that theme. We have a digital data emerging technologies theme, which covers our computer sciences, digital humanities, computational approaches to archiving. And we have our conservation heritage science theme, which lots of other areas have talked about already. We have about 16 million projects in delivery at the moment, a really vibrant and diverse and healthy portfolio of grant funding, of which we hope this fellowship will be part. And as well as taking money in, we also give it out. So we're also a grant maker that gives about 60 grants a year to other archives across the UK, totaling up about £2 million a year. And then finally, we have a team working on our research impact culture and engagement. We have a PhD program, we have a researcher training program, we have all sorts of internal, external events to conferences, fellowships like this one, digital engagement, all sorts of things. Basically, the impression with which I'm trying to leave you, this is a really vibrant place to do research. So what are we interested in? This is our research vision, and this is the document with which I'd encourage fellowship applicants to engage. There are a few bits to it. It starts off by talking about our principles for doing research. And if you're interested in doing a fellowship with us, do pay attention to these, because this is the kind of research that we like to do. First of all, it's practice-based research. We have an amazing collection, 270 kilometres of shelving and loads of digital stuff. But we're not just interested in the collection. We're also interested in the things that we do, our expertise, our practice, our tools, and in the role we have to play within government. So if you're interested in the sort of practice of an archive, as well as the stuff that we've got in the building, please do get in touch. Secondly, our research tries and be mission driven. So we're trying to do research that supports our strategy and supports our public task. Third of all, we're trying to do research that we call is uncertain. So lots of civil service practice is pretty safe. It's pretty, it's designed to keep things safe and secure. But actually, within the National Archives, the research team is the place where we want to embrace experimentation, embrace risk, try new approaches, and sometimes embrace failure too. Fourth of all, it's connective. So everything that we do is delivered in partnership with universities, with other IROs, with commercial business, whatever it might be. So if any of, or indeed all 4 of those things sounds like you, we would love to hear from you. And this is what you might be interested in doing. When you think about our research and our research themes, essentially just have a think about what an archive does. So first of all, what an archive does is it tries to be a custodian of the record, physically and digitally, preserve it for the future. Second of all, it tries to be sustainable for the future as an organisation, including environmentally. Third of all, it tries to provide access to the record, whether that be in person, online, computationally, globally. And fourth of all, it tries to be a catalysing presence within society, tries to be a contributor to the communities of which it is part. And this is my last slide, which I'm not going to talk through in too much detail, but this is the sort of lodestone for our research. So if you read those themes across the top of this grid and read our areas of research interest along the left of this grid, you land at some research questions. And we would very much encourage anybody interested in a fellowship with us to engage specifically with one or more of these research questions. You can find these all on our research vision, which is on our website. Just search for the National Archives Research, and I will leave it there because I'm over time already. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you ever so much. And just to say thanks again to our 5 independent research organisation hosts, to Dr. Jenny Morris, one of our current fellows, and also to Sue Carver from AHRC for joining us today. We have, thanks to colleagues' phenomenal timekeeping, a good 7 minutes for any Q&A. So should you so wish to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand, come off mute, even switch your camera on if you feel like it. And hopefully there are enough people on the call who'd be able to answer your question. So I throw it open to the floor. Hi, Olivia.
Hi, thank you very much for taking my question. It's actually for Jack, just very briefly. I noticed the grid you've given us regarding the themes versus the principles. There are 5 areas of expertise on the left-hand side, which only 3 of which really appeared in your presentation. Are the latter 2 less of interest to the National Archives, or did they just not necessarily make an appearance in your presentation?
This is what happens when you try and talk through an 18-month strategy process in 2 minutes. No, everything on the grid is of interest to us. You can find it all in the research vision. We sort of have this loose division between our 3 research themes, collections, archives, digital, and conservation heritage science, and some enabling stuff that we do. So we also have some research questions, research interests to do with impact culture engagement, and also to do with research infrastructure. So things like our riches program you find under, our program to develop our physical infrastructure. We're interested in the whole bracket. Obviously, have a conversation with us to let us know exactly what that means like for you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Olivia. Yes, Brad, over to you.
Hello. So my question is there any likelihood, possibility that there might be extensions to these fellowships after they finished?
Sue, could I go to you on that from the AHRC perspective, and I can cover off the IRO perspective?
Yeah, so from an AHRC perspective, we generally wouldn't extend fellowships. I mean, obviously, if they're extenuating circumstances, there may be an option, but generally we wouldn't extend fellowships there for a fixed period of time.
And then from an IRO perspective, your salary costs will be funded through the grant, and the terms of that contract is there is no expectation that we would employ anyone beyond the duration of that particular employment contract. However, as JD mentioned with Jenny and other colleagues, is that when you're embedded within the organization, we are working hard to find ways of keeping great people. So I realize that's a deeply politician's answer, but in terms of what is guaranteed through the funding, through the fellowship, it is that set period of employment, and then kind of what happens next often is dependent on the host IRO plus fellow plus other extenuating circumstances, I guess. So the fellowship is a tool to position yourself, I guess, is what we would say.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant, thanks, Brad. Peter, over to you.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, the position essentially is a job, and you are employed by the host institution. Is there any kind of indication of what that constitutes in terms of timing? So, for example, I'm a full-time lecturer. So if I got the opportunity, then I'd have to drop my contract, and then there's a possibility that I'd have to negotiate kind of putting it back up so I have enough money to live on. What kind of days per week, or is there any kind of relation about what it constitutes as a job? Is it 2 days a week? Is it 1 day a week? Yeah.
Sue, Eloise, forgive me, I've momentarily forgotten our full-time versus part-time criteria within this.
this question arose in a previous one, previous town hall, and previous part-time fellows have all been 0.5, and the advice was to contact AHRC through the researcher.development email address to see to talk about potential different part-time hours to that. Does that answer part of the question?
I know. I think, Eloise, to follow up from that really helpful point, I think one thing that as an applicant you would need to consider is in some ways the realities of working in one of our organizations, which is if you're present only one day a week, it's very hard. It is very, very hard to get a meaningful project done. We are deeply supportive of part-time, flexible working, all of that kind of stuff. But I think you need to think quite carefully about what would be realistic within to achieve within a kind of project scope, which is why in our current experience, the sort of minimum time that people are committing to the process is 0.5, but that is done in one particular person's case alongside an academic role. So we have a sort of, we have precedent for the maintenance of an academic role that has gone down in hours and to be run alongside the fellowship opportunity.
So can I just add to that as well? So I think it is also, I think you do need to think about this as a career development opportunity as well, not just a job as it were. So I think there is also that in terms of how you will get the most out of it as a career development opportunity and engage with the cohort development program and things like that. So I think that in a sense, the amount of time you would need to do that as well as to do the research part of your work.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Sue. We've got time for sort of one more question if anyone is burning. Yes, Jenny, brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So kind of as one of your fellows said earlier, obviously a lot of us come from a research background, but are very interested in working with cultural heritage institutions. So there was a question in the chat about kind of outputs, and why I understand that outputs can kind of be quite various and different depending on what institution you're collaborating with. Could maybe some of the reps from the IROs kind of talk about what is feasible within this time frame, just because I know if people often have difficulties with scope and feasibility with these applications.
Jenny, that's an absolutely brilliant question, and I think we should extend the town hall to ensure that we have a little bit of time to answer it. IRO colleagues, might one of you be willing to kind of kick us off there? Jack, you're on the screen, so I'm going to pick on you if that's all right, just in terms of the other research work that TNA does, and then I'll come to you, JD, if that's all right.
I'm so sorry, Ollie. Will you give me 5-second repeat of the question? My internet dropped for a second at the key moment.
Why don't I'll go to JD first and then come back to you, Jack, if that's all right. JD, just in terms of scope and scale.
No, that's a really good question. I would say we should ask. You should actually find out what I told Jennifer she has to do. I think for us, the key thing is about how does this. What do you need on your CV that this 2-year full-time opportunity can give you to get you a job in a cultural and heritage organisation? So I would say, yes, there still needs to be some form of academic / specialist publication, but it doesn't need to be a grand monograph. It probably just needs to be a good article in an appropriate journal, because still those types of publications are still quite important if you want to come and work in our organisations, to show that you have the specialist knowledge, and also to when you then go on to apply for other funding, to have that on your CV. But other than that, I think what we're looking for varies from project to project. So across the current fellows, there's some really different types of output, but they need to be appropriate for the work you're doing and the career you're looking for. So if it's coming to work with us, and you're going to be doing things on collections, it's to show that you have done a big piece of work, understanding and redoing the history of that collection, or you've done a piece of work working with communities like Jenny's done in Sarawak, to re-understand that collection. So again, you've got something concrete on your CV. It might not be an exhibition, it might not be enough public outcome, because other IROs have very different contexts and budgets and situations to work with. So the British Museum, it's very hard for us to commit to doing a temporary exhibition. Other IROs would actually find that much easier.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, JD. I'm just conscious of timing, and I think we should leave it there, because I think JD's answer was really helpful just in terms of giving this sort of scale and scope. Megan, Andrew, Jack, thank you for coming online to provide an answer. But I think just to emphasize, it's very much what we are looking to achieve over the next couple of months in terms of the conversations is that alignment of researcher ambition with institutional need, and that's the sweet spot that this fellowship can really hit. And we want this to be a platform. I'm really sorry we don't have any time for any more questions as it stands, and we're going to need to wrap up there. But all information will be shortly uploaded to the funding finder page on the UKRI website. And please, as I said, please do reach out to organisations, and we will all be triaging your requests to make sure that you can speak to the most relevant person as soon as possible. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for your interest, and we really look forward to seeing how these translate into exciting new projects. Cheers then. Bye.